30 years ago, I was one of the first original 30 members of the church. And of course, much later, the church grew beyond bounds. It spread to other cities. Even the one church that they started downtown became too big that they had to distribute it into districts. I'm a judge now at the International Court of Justice. What this court is, it's the judicial arm of the United Nations. We deal with disputes between states. So it's government to government. But I also happen to be the first African woman judge on the court. And the fact that I am one of the Watoto members, if you like, I think is something to be proud of, absolutely. And I feel that I have an opportunity now to practice the values that I've learned throughout my Christian walk in Watoto, to practice them at this level, to practice justice at the world level. I mean, how awesome is that? A lot of our generation of Watoto worshippers have moved on into government, have moved on into leadership, and are in influential positions to influence the course of things in the country and in the world at large. I mean, here I am in The Hague. And it is those values that were picked up in Watoto that we're riding on now. And I mean, God help us if we don't live according to the values that Gary and Marilyn worked so hard to inculcate in us.
It was about 2-3 years later, maybe not even quite that long, that we were hit by HIV/AIDS. We heard that it was what they called slim, because if you got AIDS, you lost your weight, and no antiretrovirals. We found out later that we were one of the highest infection rates in the world, officially 27%, but it was more than that. And people started dying, and we started having funerals on a regular basis, and we also found out that we had the highest number of AIDS orphans in the world. We had a young man who lived in a town called Luero. He said, "Come up and visit us." He said, "I want you to meet this grandmother." She was 76, her husband had died, she had had 7 children, 6 of her own natural biological children had died. She had 26 of her own grandchildren living with her on that facility. She just began to break down. She said, "I have no one to look after these kids. I'm old, I'm tired, I can't dig anymore. What am I going to do?" And I said to her, "Don't worry about your children. We'll help you with your children." And it was a defining moment for me because I realized I couldn't pastor a great church and ignore the problems of the people. And it was during that time that God began to very clearly speak to me, and one day said to me, he said, "Gary, I want you to look after my children." He didn't say the children, he said my children. Instantly I knew that it was the orphan, because the orphan, he's the father of the fatherless. And I knew I was to look after kids that have been orphaned as a result of, left parentless as a result of HIV/AIDS. And I argued with God. I said, "I'm not interested. I don't want to look after kids. Kids pee their pants, they flatulate, I want to preach. I want to pastor." And Jesus said to me, he said, "I didn't send you to Uganda to do what you want. I sent you to Uganda to do what I want. Look after my children."
I tried hiding my shame. I pretended nothing was different. I made believe I was still a girl with dreams, hopes.
어디가?
But pain has a way of leading you to fear, and fear has a way of stealing your future and replacing it with regret.
It isn't only AIDS that is robbing children of their parents here in Uganda, though. Every year, thousands of babies are abandoned. Life is tough for women in Uganda. Many times, girls are raped and they end up with an unwanted pregnancy, and their family totally rejects them and kicks them out of the house, tells them that they won't allow them to go back to school anymore unless they get rid of the baby.
I found this baby in my village.
Okay.
I reported the matter to the police, and they sent me here.
Is the baby fine?
No, I don't know.
Does the baby have any name?
Yeah, I name him Moses.
Do you know any family member?
No, I don't know.
Okay, we'll take care of the baby.
Thank you very much.
Whenever new babies come to Baby Watoto, our first goal is to stabilize them. So often they arrive really sick. So we try and get as much information from whoever found the child in the first place as to where they were abandoned, who found them, what kind of conditions they were in, what time it was, and if there's any possible known details about the relatives. And then obviously our quick goal is to stabilize them. Once they're medically stable, or while the nurses are working to stabilize the child, the social workers will often go back into the community, interview police, interview the people who found the child. We find that later on, often that helps us to locate relatives. We can run newspaper adverts, radio announcements, posters around the area.
It was several years ago that the cry of the abandoned baby really captured our hearts, and we realized we had to do something about it. So Baby Watoto is really our response to it. God blessed us with a beautiful facility right downtown Kampala.
So we started taking abandoned babies in early 2007, and we quickly filled up. In 2010, we opened Subi and Gulu. I really enjoy seeing just kids come from, especially the really, really sick ones, the really premature ones, the ones that are cold, need oxygen, come from a state where I know that within a few hours they could have died, to become a fat, healthy, chubby little baby that's full of life and smiling.
It's really a transition place. It's a place of safety for tiny little abandoned babies, so that they can be nurtured and cared for, and when they're healthy and when they're whole enough and when they're able, then they are graduated into one of our Watoto villages so that they too can become raised to become future leaders in this great country.
Moses, you're going home, baby.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see babies graduate to the village.
Hi, Moses.
And I believe that God has a long-term goal for all these kids, and it's great to be a part of the early days of giving them a good start.
Bye, Moses. I'm really going to miss you. I'll keep on praying for you, baby.
It can be really sad because often we miss them, but it's great to know that they're going on to do what they're meant to do.
See you next time. I'll come and check on you, all right?
baby I left in the field that day, I now know a mother can never lose her child. They somehow stay deep within her heart. Sometimes in the smallest whisper of my soul, I know my child is being loved. He is happy. He has been given the chance at life that I couldn't give him.